They whisper like flowers with the teeth in their grin. I shrink myself down, try to quiet the din. One wrong word and the chord is in session in Wonderland. Every glance is a question. I wear my guilt like a velvet crown. Ashamed before I even break down. Hyper aware, yet I still fall apart. Every stare feels like a dart to the heart. Welcome to Wonderland Unlocked, with Courtney guiding through every thought. Borderline in Wonderland, this is the place where shame wears a smile and hides its face. But here we name it, we speak what's true. No judgment can undo the real.
Welcome back to Wonderland Unlocked, the place where our clocks don't always tick in order, our hearts don't beat on schedule, and our stories unfold like tea parties with no end. Today we're sipping from a particularly tricky cup. Time. But not just time. Time blindness. Emotional flashbacks. The kind of chaos that makes you feel like it's always now, even when now is a memory. We're calling this episode Ticking Teacups, Time Blindness, and Emotional Flashbacks. Because in Wonderland, clocks don't make sense, and sometimes neither does their sense of past and present. Let's pour a cup and begin. Let's continue with time blindness. That fuzzy fog where minutes feel like hours, and hours slip by unnoticed. It's a strange thing, isn't it, to know what time is but not feel it? It's like looking at the clock and thinking, that can't be right. Because when you're time blind, time doesn't behave like it should. It doesn't follow the rules. It doesn't respect the boundaries you think it has. In your world, time sometimes stands still. Other times, it rushes at you too fast. It's never just one thing. It's like a carousel, spinning and pulling you with it. And when it's spinning out of control, it can leave you lost in a loop. And here's where borderline personality disorder, BPD, really complicates things. In a typical experience, emotional lasts in their own time. A feeling comes and it goes. Maybe you're sad for a little while, or maybe you're angry for an afternoon, and then when the feeling subsides, the clock moves on. But for those of us with BPD, emotions and time are not linear. They become intertwined. A single emotional trigger can bring us back into a time, a moment, a feeling, as if we're there again. And it's no longer about the current moment. It's about every other moment that feels the same. Imagine this. You're having a conversation and someone raises their voice, just a little. You know it's not a big deal, but inside, it feels like your world is falling apart. The ground beneath you shifts. You feel small. Suddenly, it's not the conversation anymore. It's that moment years ago in your childhood when you were yelled at and ignored. That moment isn't then, it's now. And you react. You react with everything inside of you because your body doesn't know the difference between the past and the present. That's time blindness in action. But more than that, it's emotional time distortion. It's like standing in the middle of the Mad Hatter's Tea Party and wondering where you fit in. Where does now fit when everything around you feels like a memory you can't outrun? How do you catch up with time when you're frozen in a moment from years ago? The trick is, you don't. You learn to move through time in your own way. So let's talk about the practical side of time blindness. It's not just about feeling overwhelmed or confused by the clock. It's also about the impact it has on our lives, on our relationships, our work, our sense of self. Have you ever found yourself getting so absorbed in something, so in the moment, that the rest of your world disappears? You're working on a project and suddenly, it's been hours. Or maybe you're talking to someone and before you know it, the conversation turned into a marathon that you didn't plan for. This is where we see the time distortion flip side. It's the forgetfulness that comes with hyperfocus. It's that tunnel vision where everything outside the present disappears. But the moment you're in feels like it will last forever. But there's another side to this. The panic when time runs out. The feeling of being late. Or realizing you haven't done something that needed to get done. Or when you've lost hours, but you didn't know that they were slipping away. The panic sets in because suddenly time becomes this thing you can't control, can't grasp, like chasing a shadow. It's always just out of reach. And this is where time blindness really intersects with the emotional intensity. Because when you're already struggling to make sense of your own emotions, and then time feels distorted too, it's easy to feel like the world is always spinning faster than you can follow. But let's pause here and acknowledge something important. This isn't your fault. It's not a flaw. It's a symptom of a brain that's working to process and protect you, but one that gets overwhelmed when the world moves faster than your ability to keep up. And it's okay to feel like you're playing catch up. You're not alone. Now let's talk about how to untangle this loop. How can we get back on track when time feels distorted? It's a process, a mix of grounding and mindfulness. We'll dive deeper into that in a moment, but first let's stay with this loop, this feeling of being lost inside it. Because when time collapses, so do our senses of self. When you can't trust the clock, it's hard to trust yourself. You might start questioning your ability to do things, finish projects, respond to people, show up when you need to. It's all tied up in this sense of time slipping, running, or disappearing. But here's the thing, you're not losing time. You are just trying to live in a world that asks you to follow rules you can't always see clearly. And that's okay. We can figure out how to dance with the clock, even when it seems out of sync. So let's breathe for a moment, because that's often what time blindness steals from us. The ability to take a breath, to pause, and remember that we're still here. We're not stuck in the past. We're just navigating the current moment differently. Take a moment to remember that you're not broken. Your experience of time might be different, but that doesn't make it wrong. In Wonderland, time often is absurd, but somehow it all unfolds in the end. Let's stay here a little longer, because if you've lived through this, really lived through the moment where your body pulls you into a memory you didn't mean to visit, you know how disorienting it can be. It doesn't start with a conscious thought. It starts with a shift, a tremor in the atmosphere. Maybe someone raises their voice and it's not that loud, but your skin prickles away. Maybe your partner says, "I'll call you later," and you hear, "I'm leaving you." Maybe someone turns away mid-conversation and your chest caves in because you felt that silence before and it didn't end well. That's the nature of relational trauma. It doesn't always scream. It whispers. And those whispers ride in the back of completely ordinary moments. And when they arrive, you're gone. Not physically, not obviously, but inside, you're no longer here. You're in then. Because your nervous system stores memory in sensation, not in neat files, not in logic, in heart rate, in muscle tension, in that twist in your stomach that says danger before your brain even catches up. This is what makes emotional flashbacks so tricky. There's no visual montage. There's no sepia-toned film reel playing in your head. You're just suddenly not okay and you have no idea why. And that's the part no one explains clearly enough. When you're emotionally flooded, it's not just that you're upset. You're in survival mode. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It kicks in before you can name what's happening. And it's exhausting. Here's the Wonderland part of this. Time loops. Feelings echo. And when you're inside of a flashback, it feels like forever. Alice asked how long forever was. The answer she got? Sometimes just 1 second. But what if you're stuck in that second for an hour, a day, a week? This is the piece most people miss. We don't just remember the pain. We relive it. We re-feel it. And until we learn to recognize it, we often blame ourselves for it. Why can't I just move on? Why am I like this? Why does this still affect me? Here's the truth. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are carrying things your body was never given the chance to safely put down. Sometimes it's a smell that brings it back. Sometimes it's a silence. Sometimes it's the way someone looked at you like you don't matter. And boom, you're not 30 years old anymore. You're 7 or 14 or 19, back in that moment, frozen in place. And because time blindness is part of this puzzle, it's easy to think it's happening right now. And in a way, it is. Not because the danger is real, but because the pain was. So what do we do when this happens? Let's talk about warning signs. Sometimes the flashbacks build gradually. You start feeling off, irritable, sad, detached. Your thoughts might get cloudy. Time starts feeling slippery. You might start disassociating, forgetting what you were just doing. You might feel hyper aware of everything around you or nothing at all. And here's the thing, your body knows before you do. So try to notice, are you holding your breath? Are your hands clenched? Are you suddenly too cold or too hot? Are you having trouble speaking clearly, forming thoughts, or remembering where you put your phone 5 seconds ago? These are all signs that your nervous system is trying to protect you from something that already happened. But, and this is important, you can come back. In Wonderland, nothing stays the same for long. The strange becomes familiar, the impossible becomes real. And like Alice, we can learn to notice the moment we begin shrinking or growing out of control. The trick is not to force yourself out of the flashback. It's to anchor yourself in something safe. That might be pressing your feet onto the floor and saying, "This is now." Holding an object in your hand and describing its texture out loud. Noticing 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Calling a trusted friend and saying, "I don't need advice, I just need to know I'm not alone." Or placing your hand on your chest and whispering, "We're okay. We're not there anymore." And when that anchor holds, even for a moment, you're back. You might feel tender. You might cry. You might need to lie down. That's okay. You just time traveled emotionally and came back. That's a victory. So let's not minimize it. Let's not shame ourselves for it. Let's call it what it is. A body protecting itself. A brain doing its best. A heart healing. When we come back from these moments, we're not overreacting. We're surviving. And survival, especially when it's this hard, is something worth honoring. You deserve to feel safe in your own now. Let's stay with that thought. Remembering isn't regression. It's repair. That shift in perspective changes everything, because for so long, many of us have been told that if we're triggered, we're being dramatic. That if we cry or panic or shut down, we're overreacting or too sensitive. But those responses, those are your nervous system trying to survive a story that never got safely finished. When you feel the flood coming on, when your throat tightens, your vision narrows, your chest gets hot, it's not just about this moment. It's your body saying, "We've been here before. Let's not get hurt again." So let's talk about the early indicators and warning signs before the emotional storm. Sometimes it starts with restlessness. You can't sit still, or maybe you can't get up. Your thoughts start to loop, fixating on small details. Something someone said, something you forgot to do. You feel disoriented, like you've lost your internal map. Maybe your heart's racing, but nothing's technically wrong. Or maybe suddenly you feel like crying for no reason. And that shame voice kicks in. Get it together, you're being ridiculous. That voice, it's not truth. It's an echo of past invalidation. It's every time someone told you your pain was inconvenient, and you don't need to listen to it. Instead, we can start practicing something else. Curiosity over criticism. Ask yourself, what just happened before this feeling showed up? What does this remind me of? How old do I feel right now? How do I need this moment to feel even 2% safer? 2%, that's all. Not total calm, not a full reset, just a sliver of safety. Because here's the reality. You can't logic your way out of an emotional flashback. You have to feel your way through it. And to feel safety, you have to know you're not alone. That's why grounding practices aren't about pretending the pain doesn't exist. They're about holding your hand through it. So let's go back to some of those tools. We mentioned naming the objects around you. That's a form of orientation. It's especially helpful if you say them out loud or even write them down. Another helpful approach, movement. When time freezes, moving your body even slightly can bring you back to the present. Touch your fingertips together, stand and stretch. Walk barefoot on the floor. Feel the texture of the carpet. Even clenching and releasing your fists can signal your brain, we're here, we're not trapped. You can also try temperature shifts. Try holding a drink, splash some water on your face. Put something warm in your lap, like a heated blanket or a mug. Temperature is deeply connected to our nervous system regulation. And here's one of the most powerful tools. Self-talk that speaks directly to the scared part of you. You don't need to sound wise or put together. Just try something like, hey, I know this feels like before, but we're okay now. That already happened. It's not happening again. I see you. I'm staying with you. You're not bad. You're scared, and that makes sense. You can even say it as if you were speaking to a younger version of yourself, because sometimes you are. And remember that time tether we talked about? It's not silly. It's sacred. Whether it's a necklace you always wear or a grounding stone, a voice memo from someone who loves you, a photo of your pet, let it be your anchor. The White Rabbit's watch didn't tell time the way we understand it, but it kept him moving. It reminded him that something mattered, that he had somewhere to be. Your tether does the same. Because when you're in a flashback, you're not just losing time, you're losing connection. And healing is about restoring that connection, first with yourself, then with the world around you. So what happens after the flood? How do you care for yourself in the aftermath? Because let's be honest, flashbacks can leave you wiped out, like you've just ran an emotional marathon with no warning. You're reclaiming it with every breath that says, I'm allowed to feel this, with every pause that says, I'm allowed to take my time. Because here's the secret, time doesn't just move forward. For those of us with BPD, those of us stitched together by feelings, it loops, stretches, stutters. And healing asks us not to force it into a straight line, but to meet it where it is. So how do we live in real time when our bodies are wired to time travel? First, we become timekeepers of our own lives. That means learning how to notice when we're being pulled backward or pushed into the future. It means building rituals, tiny ones, that help us return. Maybe it's morning light on your face. Maybe it's making your tea the same way every day. Maybe it's a playlist that calms you down or an outfit that feels like armor. These are bookmarks in your story, the things that say you are here, and here matters. Another piece of reclaiming time? Letting go of the idea that you're behind. Behind what? Behind who? There's no race, no cosmic stopwatch, tracking your grief, your progress, your healing. Time with BPD isn't about getting back on track. It's about realizing the track was never straight to begin with. And yes, some days will feel like all you did was survive. But survival is not the opposite of progress. It's the groundwork for it. Every flashback that didn't break you, every meltdown that you came back from, every time you apologized, reached out, repaired, and tried again. Those are moments that count. Even if no one else sees them, you get to count them. Let's talk for a second about celebrating small timelines. Did you notice a flashback coming and pause before reacting? That's huge. Did you check the date and remind yourself you're not back here? That's real work. Did you take a nap after an emotional spiral instead of punishing yourself for needing rest? That's healing in real time. Because reclaiming the clock isn't just about managing triggers. It's about honoring the time it takes to rebuild trust with yourself. And trust is slow. If BPD makes you feel like you're always running out of time or like you're too late to fix things, you're not. There's still time. Time to self-soothe, time to reconnect, time to learn what your nervous system is trying to teach you. This isn't a race. It's a reclamation. So if you feel like you've wasted time in relationships, in recovery, in regret, pause here. You didn't waste it. You lived it. And now you get to learn from it, not as a punishment, but as liberation. This is your clock now. It ticks on your terms, with your rhythm aligned with your truth. And if you find yourself spiraling into a moment that feels like it's pulling you under, remember this. You have a boat now. It's made of all the moments you've come through, all of the feelings that you thought would drown you but didn't, all of the truths you named when the world tried to silence you. And if that boat rocks, it's okay, because you're not stuck in the teacup anymore. You're steering it. So here we are, back at the tea table. The clocks are still spinning. Some cups are still cracked. But now we understand the ticking a little more. Some blindness isn't laziness. Emotional flashbacks aren't irrational. They're signs of survival, of memory, of healing and progress. And in Wonderland, healing never moves in a straight line. It zigzags, spirals, repeats, and that's okay. Because even when the teacups spin, you're allowed to pause. You're allowed to breathe. And when you cry out, not knowing if it's now or then, your body is whispering something mattered. And that's not something to fix. That's something to honor. Until next time, keep your clocks weird, your tea warm, and your heart soft. This has been Wonderland Unlocked. I'm so glad that you're still here.